This is Groove Talk with Froggy Style.
So do you mind just introducing yourself again, just for the people who will be listening?
Sure. I'm James Duncan with Divinity. I play guitar, and I've been a part of the band for 20 years.
20 years, wow. So you guys are about to go on tour here.
Yeah.
And it's a tour in support of your new album, The Immortalist.
It is.
So I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about the tour and like why you kind of picked the cities you're going to and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we've, in the past we've done, big tours across Canada, things like that, but this year we really wanted to focus on hometown. So we haven't played a lot of these places in southern Alberta for a lot of years, like Lethbridge. We haven't been there for 15 years. Drumheller, we've never actually played Drumheller. And then, of course, we'll do Edmonton and Calgary, the standard ones, but we're also hitting Banff. So there's a lot of shows in there that we wouldn't necessarily think about playing, but it worked out in our favor this time because we haven't played a lot of local shows in our area, and we wanted to, make sure we get back and see some of these smaller centers as well.
Awesome. So did you guys kind of pick who you will be playing with at these shows, or was it like a promoter?
We teamed up with X-Pain. We know those guys. They're friends of ours from Van.
Yeah.
So we kind of got in touch with them, and we collaborated on that front, and then the other bands that will be opening are all up to the promoter. So
okay.
We don't have much say in all that, but looks like we're going to have some pretty good quality bands opening up.
Yeah, for sure. Was there any reason in particular you wanted to keep it like kind of like a short tour, or?
Oh, there's many reasons, mostly money, of course.
Yeah.
The touring life is not necessarily conducive to making a living these days, so we all work our day jobs, and then we, plan our lives around that. We always try to do one significant thing a year. Usually we can't do 2, 3, 4, 5 different things a year, so we choose one. Last year we did the Devon Townsend tour, so that was awesome.
Cool.
But it really is a matter of us all having day jobs, having mortgages, and our lives that we have to maintain as well in order to be able to do this.
Yeah, for sure. So your guys' new album, The Immortalist, it's very interesting because it's a combination of 3 EPs. Am I correct?
Yes.
So when you kind of started and you released the first EP, was this always the goal, or did it just kind of happen?
Well, when we regrouped after we did the big tour, and Sasha left the band after that, and Nick temporarily left the band for a bit. So we decided to take a bit of a hiatus at that point to figure out what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. So when Sean and Brett and I are kind of the ongoing core of the band always, and we decided that we needed to get some music out. We had a bunch of songs that we were digging, so we thought we've got to get this going on, but a full album again would have been just way too much to take on. Like, our music is so dense and so packed full of stuff. We couldn't write an album in a few months. It would take us a few years. So we decided it'd be much easier to break it down into 3 EPs with 4 songs on them each, and that way, we'd be able to maybe manage that. So we came back with Awestruck, Part 1, and, we didn't know what would happen after that. Get on to Part 2, hopefully, and that's what happened. So it worked out really good, and in the end, it ended up being, we wanted to make sure all the songs were together. We didn't want to have them all separate in these little EPs. We wanted it to be the story that it is and all be together in one package. So hence the full Immortalist disc.
Awesome. So I was wondering, how would you describe your guys' sound?
That's always a hard one to pinpoint because we've always been the band that we just write our music, and what it is what it is. It turns out to be heavy metal.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily take after a certain style or a certain band or anything like that. But, I mean, we're influenced by early Metallica, early Megadeth, Slayer, all the thrash stuff. And that slowly morphed into a more death metal sound as we, progressed in our musical lives and found out that there was all kinds of intense stuff out there, So over the years, we've just kind of amalgamated all of our influences into this band, and somehow it just comes out as Divinity. I think I hate all the subgenres now. Obviously black metal is very different from power metal, but in the end, metal is metal, and we try to basically merge all kinds of metal into our stuff. And we don't consciously do that. That's just kind of how it works. But people in the past have compared us to Strapping Young Lad, Death, Into Eternity, Soilwork, that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. So how does the songwriting process kind of work for you guys? Is it like one person coming with an idea, or you guys kind of like all jam until you find something?
Well, it's always been an ongoing process with that as well. In the beginning, it was Sean wrote all the songs. When I met him, he was a 17-year-old kid and already had 8 songs or something like that. So when I joined the band, he had a bunch of material. And then very shortly after that, I started contributing, and we started writing songs. And before we knew it, we had 30 or 40 tunes back in the day. But for our main career, for the most part, it used to be me and Sasha would write most of the music. And Sasha would have his songs, I would have my songs, and then we would bring them to the band, learn them, and then Sean would usually add all the vocals and lyrics and all that. But nowadays, Sean's getting back into the songwriting a lot more now that Sasha's not here, so it's Sean and I now. And basically we come up with riffs and song ideas and see where it goes from there. But on the Immortalist, it was really interesting how a lot of the songs just seemed to write themselves. Like Atlas was a riff that I had in DMT that we took out of that song, and he always wanted to start part 3 with that riff. So I said, go ahead, fine, see what you can come up with. And a few days later, he came back with a full song called Atlas, and we were all like, hey, this is awesome. So you never know which way it's going to go nowadays, but these days we're much more of a unit. So we do write together. Like Jeff now has rejoined. He used to be the bass player in the band. Now he's the second singer, and he's contributed a lot of lyrics to these newer songs as well. And Brett's beats, of course, are crucial to the feel of the song and how it turns out. So everybody gets their part these days.
Okay, cool. So what's it like having been in a band for so long and playing with the same people for so long?
Well, I guess I don't have anything else to really compare it to. I've had lots of other projects. I also have a rock band, and I also do this and that and all kinds of different things. But with Divinity, it's we're all kind of brothers. I mean, me and Brett are real brothers, but we've all been hanging out for 20 years together. Like me, Brett, Sean, and Jeff have known each other for 20 years. So we're best of friends as well. So we do all kinds of stuff together. We party together. We go hiking in the mountains and biking, and we go see shows, and we jam, and we're best friends, but we're also a band. So it's really cool that way, because it does make us stronger as a unit when we step on stage live and we have to push this stuff to the crowd. We don't have to worry about anybody's weird hang-ups or anything like that. I mean, we know each other through and through. So it makes it pretty easy to keep this thing going at this point, because Divinity's kind of its own entity now. It lives without us at this point. So we just keep it running and try to keep practiced up and get together as much as we can, and it works well, because 20 years doing anything, I think you're going to be pretty good at it.
Yeah. So how has the music scene in Calgary kind of changed over your time, like, in it?
Well, it's changed a lot. I think a lot due to the fact that you don't just wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to be a rock star, and then you go do that. It's not the same thing as it ever was. So when we started in the scene, there was a few bands that were really influential to us, such as Pericardium and Thorazine and, Minion and Hiatus, Ripcase. And these guys were, just awesome bands, a little bit older than us, so we had these guys to look up to, and turns out we befriended all of them in the end, and, we know all these guys now. So through our years and years and years and years and years of doing this, I wouldn't say we've rose to the top of the pack, but we've definitely had a little more success than a lot of these guys we know, mostly due to the fact that we're still together.
Yeah.
And they're not. So, you look back at where we started and where we are in 2017, and it's pretty cool because we can look back and say, hey, we've made a name for ourselves. We've put out quality music that we're very proud of. And I hope that helps the scene even further, because there's always great bands coming and going. There's always a great show at some bar. Lots of guys can play their instruments well. Lots of guys are shredding circles around me in a technical way. But there's always that thing of longevity, and why would a band continue on for years and years and years? And I think it has a lot to do with their songwriting. If you have songs that are memorable to people and catchy and things that people like to hear, then you'll have a better chance than a band who's just way too out there for anybody to get, or whatever it might be. And these days, the music scene anywhere is so saturated with, especially in the metal scene, with technical playing and showing off. So it's not so much anymore about how good's your song. It's more about how are you going to portray yourself, and are you a shred player that kicks everybody's ass on the guitar, or are you a songwriter that has this and that? So it's all a big mess usually, because as soon as you leave the scene for a year or so, like sometimes when we're going on tour or we're doing something, we're making an album, we disappear from the scene. We don't see everybody all the time, and we don't go to every show. So people wonder where we are or what we're doing. Did you guys leave? Did you guys quit? Did you this and that? No, we're just doing our own thing. So a lot of the time through the years, we've kind of stepped outside of our local scene per se, just to try to stay away from any of the drama, any of the clickiness, any of the judgment that a lot of these people will have, and that's in anything. But we kind of stay in our own plane and do our own thing, and it's helped us that way. But there's lots of great bands in Calgary, and there always will be.
I guess what's something about the Calgary scene that you think makes it unique from maybe some other scenes that you've seen?
Not a lot, honestly. The scene in Calgary has always been very small and very, I wouldn't say cliquey, but as you go through years and years of this, you see the same people there. There's certain same people, and you see other new people, and people come and go. I mean, the one thing about Calgary is we're a cowboy town, so a lot of country music, and there's not a lot of heavy metal comparatively to somewhere like Montreal, where you've got something in the water, and I don't know what it is, but these guys drink that water, and they create the best death metal on the planet, whether it's Cryptopsy or Beneath the Massacre or Augury or Neuraxis or any of these guys. They have a real scene out there that is nurtured by fans and by small labels and media that helps to push this stuff. We don't get a lot of attention in Calgary, so it's lacking in a lot of ways. When you go to these other places and you see what they do and what they have, it is kind of disappointing when you come back to Calgary and you realize we just got this little scene of a small amount of people and not many great bars. There used to be lots of great bars, but then they just shut down. Another one opens up. There's a few decent venues now, but not a ton.
So since you have kind of been doing music for such a long time, maybe what's one kind of piece of advice that you could give to somebody who's just getting started out in music?
Well, if you're talking just music in general or you're talking about a band, it could be two different things. But I would say, regardless of what kind of music or what you're doing with it, you want to hone your instrument. You want to be good at it, but you want to learn the things that you would have had to learn if we were in 1940 or 1950. How to play your instrument, make it sound good, in tune. How do you tune it by ear? Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to You don't need to know all your scales and chords and everything, but you need to be a good songwriter. That's really what it comes down to. And you got to trust yourself. You know, lots of people these days I see 18-year-old kids on YouTube that just shred the living crap out of the stuff I'm doing. But that's not the point of what I'm trying to do or what we're trying to do. It's, the focus should be on writing from the heart, because when you write from the heart, it comes out as it should, not trying to please anybody or trying to fit into a certain pattern. And we've never done that. We've never specifically wrote music to sound a certain way or whatever it might be. We always just write our music, and in the end, that song comes through as a song, as its own entity. And if you listen to the Immortalist all the way through, you'll see that each song has its own identity. It stands apart. It's different. It's different keys. We use different keys all the time. We use different sounds. We use different tempos. You know, some of the death metal guys use one tempo, and all their songs are like that. You know, guys like Archspire and Dying Fetus, they have a lot of songs that are exactly the same tempo, mainly because they're trying to go fast, and that's as fast as you can go, so that's where it caps out. But, it's all about staying true to yourself and writing from the heart and writing with feel. In metal, it can be so technical and so sterile and precise that you lose anything of the feel of it. And one of the biggest things that's influenced me, it's kind of a crazy little story, but Pantera used to have all these crazy videos. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but they'd compile all the footage from their tours and from their parties and stuff like this, and they made these videos. So we'd watch these all the time, and it's basically Pantera getting drunk out of their minds and doing the craziest shit possible. But there's this one part in one of these Pantera movies, I don't remember which one it is, but Dimebag's drunk out of his mind backstage in the bathroom by himself with the video camera. He's got no shirt on, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's got his drink there, and he's talking. He's filming himself in the mirror in the bathroom talking, and he's telling whoever's going to listen to this one day, he's saying, don't take the feel out of music. Your Pro Tools crap, your editing like crazy is going to destroy music. You need to have the mistakes. You need to have the bends on the guitar that aren't quite there. They're not quite right. That's what creates the grind and the groove that's not right on the click. It's not perfect. And he said, you're going to kill it if you do that. So don't do that. Don't edit everything to shit. Let it be what it is. Leave the mistake in there, because that's how it's played. That's how you play it. And that stuck with me a lot, because when we were back in our first and second albums, we were striving to be as technical as possible. I wrote Transformation, which was on the Singularity, specifically to be just as technical as I could make it, just playing to my limits of how many time changes and how many time signatures I can put in this song. So we're out of that now. Now we're writing from the heart, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Like, it's kind of like the whole thing about the beautiful mistake, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
And there's definitely something to be said for analog music nowadays, because I feel like we're almost super saturated by computer music and things that are just like perfectly made and like engineered to make you feel certain ways. So what's maybe, I guess, kind of one thing that really surprised you about being in a band, maybe something that you didn't expect that you would have to deal with?
Well, there's a million things, really. Time management, I would say. Like, I ask people this as a joke sometimes, but I really don't know what people without bands do. What do you do all day? When you get home from work, like, what do you do for 7 hours? I mean, I guess you watch TV or play video games or work on your yard or paint a wall or some shit, but, I mean, we're working all the time. Divinity has practiced Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday for 20 years, and we always go to practice. Sometimes you don't because it's Christmas time or something, but other than that, we're always doing something with our band. So surprisingly, it is all-encompassing. Even when you think, oh, well, there's not much to do this week, you still find yourself with a million things to do to keep this band running. And now that we are independent again, it takes everything that happens has to happen from us. We can't just allow anyone to possibly do it for us. It's all on our heads. So there's that, and I guess one of the coolest things that happens is, people told me back in the day that your reward for music will never be money. It will be something else. You'll never get that big fat check, or you probably won't get that big fat check. And it is really cool when, you're somewhere remote. Last year I was playing a show with my rock band, and we were doing this all night kind of cover gig thing out in this little town for this birthday party, and a bunch of people in this bar. Everybody's having a blast, and after the second set, this kid comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, you play in Divinity, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Holy shit, I just saw you guys a couple months ago, and you were awesome. I love your band. I've got all your CDs and all this stuff. What are you doing out here?" So I explained to him I play in this band as well, and we do this to, make some money and blah, blah, blah. He was just blown away that I was in this little town, and he got to watch me play guitar and just play off-the-cuff solos all night on, classic rock. And in the end, it just made his day. But it made my day, too, because I just got to meet somebody in some random place that recognized me and was so stoked that he could hang out with me and talk with me, just me and him. I mean, it's not like a show where you have to try to wait for the guy if you want to try to talk to him and finally get your 30 seconds with him, and then he's busy, so you kind of got to get out of that. Like, I hung out with this kid for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Talked about all kinds of shit. And those kind of things are really cool, because that your music does get out there somehow, and that it does have its own living, breathing life to it, that if you left it alone right now, it would still exist out there. Yeah. You can't take away those albums that we've made. You can't take away the impressions that we've made on people live, or, the people that, order all our merchandise, one of everything from Australia.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, we got a $300 merch order today. Where the hell is this guy from? Australia. All right. Send him his stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So have you guys received a lot of support internationally then? Like kind of stuff like that, or?
Well, yeah, I think being on Nuclear Blast for our first record really helped us in that way to get worldwide.
Yeah.
Nuclear Blast being the biggest metal label around, they're able to push your stuff to places, nooks and crannies that you would never get to other than having them do it. Yeah. So, like when we sold like 6,000 copies or something of our first record, and most of it was in Europe. So. Okay. USA and Canada were a small amount of sales, whereas all the European countries were most of them. So we've got a lot of support. I'm actually friends with a guy. I play PlayStation games with him sometimes. He's from Thailand, and he's a cool dude. He just happened to come and say hi. I'm a fan of your band, and I play guitar too. How you doing? And that was a few years ago, and now we talk all the time. We're internet buddies. And we played Destiny on PlayStation together, and he's across the world, right? So, yeah. He orders his Divinity shirt and then sends pictures to us like, "Hey, man, wearing my Divinity shirt at this show." He was at Machine Head in Thailand there wearing his Divinity shirt, right? So you never know, because there's a lot of people out there in different countries that have our stuff and know of us, and I really wish we could get out there and play live for all these people, but I don't know who's going to fund that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. So how has music changed you as a person?
Well, again, it's hard when you don't have anything else to go by, since I've been a musician my whole life. So yeah. I don't know what it would be like to not be one. Okay. But I do know that throughout the years, I mean, we've all had our ups and downs, and I had lots of my downs back in the day, and music is always what's got me through stuff. It's not like you just put on a song and now, your problems go away. It's all better. It's more like this constant, like movie playing in the back of your mind that makes you feel like this is just a part of the movie. It'll be better afterwards. So I don't know how you see it, but you hear a song that you really like, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that time when we were doing this, and then this happened. Oh man, I'll never forget that." And you associate it with that song. Yeah. So I do that. I have a really like a visual type imagination. I see all kinds of crazy stuff in my mind. I don't need to take acid or mushrooms. I just close my eyes and think about something. I have a really overactive imagination. And, music, I relate all of my favorite songs to certain feelings, certain parts, certain points in time, like an ex-girlfriend that screwed you over and you thought your life was ruined, or, your buddy beat you up at the bar and you have to make your way home and figure out why your buddy beat you up, and all these weird things that happen when you're a young kid. But it's always been music that I can always go back to. And my guitar never yells at me. My guitar never hits me. My guitar never, gives me sickness. It's just sitting there waiting for me to do what I want with it. And it's always willing. So I know I can trust it. So it's kind of that thing. It's like my invisible friend that's always walking with me. Sounds kind of cheesy, but if you have to put it into words, I guess that's how I describe it.
Cool. I guess kind of what's your, since you are a little bit older, what's your take on maybe some of the newer stuff that's coming out in metal and the younger bands that are playing around Calgary?
Yeah, that's always a tough one because, when the younger generation is always pissing off the older generation no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the older generation doesn't even know why. They just don't like it. Yeah. Like my dad used to call it shit music. Yeah. He'd be listening to Slayer, and he'd be like, "What's this shit music you're listening to?" I'd be like, "Whatever. You listen to Black Sabbath. You listen to Uriah Heep. You listen to all these bands when you were young. Fuck off. Why are you getting on my stuff, right?" Yeah. But that's kind of like the natural feeling because you go through a lot of time that somebody else hasn't spent at it, and you look at them and you're like, "Yeah, you don't know shit. You haven't been knocked over yet. You haven't gone through the ringer. You haven't had to pay your fair share yet of scars and beatings." So you kind of look down on people who haven't done that. You don't really mean to, but it just happens that way. Yeah. But I mean, just like I said before about this technicality thing where, I mean, as much as somebody would shred circles around me in some ways, maybe they could never touch how tight I am at rhythm and how my brother and I will be locked in forever. We're not going to go out. We're not going to fall off. He's not going to miss the part. And I'm not going to miss the fill that he does because he felt like tossing it in there. I'm not going to miss my spot. Yeah. Because we have that live experience. We have the studio experience. I spent my whole childhood playing piano, Royal Conservatory piano, and just couldn't wait to get to guitar. But, we've put in our time. So a lot of these younger bands, again, it comes down to songwriting, playing from the heart. If you don't have enough life experience, how are you going to write from the heart something that really matters? So a lot of the time it might be harder for a 16-year-old kid to write a really awesome song than it would be for a seasoned veteran who's done it hundreds of times and has something new to talk about. Yeah. And it's hard because you never know how old some of these bands are. You don't, it's not like before where you get the CD and you open up the booklet and you look at them and you see who they are, and then you're like, oh, they're on this record label and I can't wait to get their next record or something. Yeah. Everything's different now. Everything's YouTube or check out this band. These guys are awesome or something. So you don't ever get a lot of the backstory anymore. And there's no mystery anymore either to any of these bands. So the younger generation is just like, I don't listen to a lot of the newer metal. The newer metal I listen to seems to be the older guys, like Soilwork and Devin Townsend and Ishon are three of my favorites right now. Pantera, I'm looking at this Guitar World from years ago. I found it. It's got all the tab for Eruption by Van Halen. So I've been attempting to finally learn Eruption, but Dimebag's on the front here with Zach. Like, those two fuckers know how to do it. Zach Wild, awesome. Yeah. I could never get sick of his playing. So, awesome. Yeah, with the younger guys, I think everybody's got too much information going on, too much info. Back off. Go sit by yourself in a room. Turn the TV off. Turn the music off. Turn everything off. Turn your phone off. And go play some guitar.
So do you think that stuff like YouTube and the internet and stuff like that, do you think it's helped the music industry overall, or?
Well, if you were to actually like weigh it out, that's really tough. But I think if you weighed it out, you would see that it's destroyed it.
Okay.
In a lot of ways. I mean,
yeah.
Of course there's the benefits. I would have never been able to find the music that I found without the internet, without YouTube. And I wouldn't be able to listen to all the music that I do. If I get an urge to hear something, I just go to YouTube, type it in, and I listen to it. And I do it at work all the time. I listen to full albums at work and as I'm working, and I wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to go and find the CD, if you even knew who that band was. You have to get that music and then listen to it. These days, it's instantaneous, or you just go to Spotify and find somebody's playlist that has a bunch of prog metal. I feel like listening to some Dream Theater-ish stuff. And again, I have found tons of bands that way by just listening to Spotify playlists. So it's awesome for that. But what it's done is it's washed out all of the mystery and all of the integrity that's inherently there when nobody knows a damn thing about you. If you walk into a place and you meet a bunch of people, you could lie your face off and say all kinds of stuff. I have a Corvette at home, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm friends with Gene Simmons. And they'd pretty much have to believe you unless you said something else that made them not believe you, but they'd pretty much have to believe you, like if you said that's what it is. But the point is that when we were listening to albums in the 80s, like when I got And Justice for All, and I'm like going to put this into the tape player for the first time, it was a moment that, that was a very important moment. Holy shit, the new Metallica tape. And it was a tape back then. It wasn't a CD. You can't skip to the song.
Yeah.
You got to put the tape in, push play, and wonder what is going to happen. And then you listen to it, and you're literally mind melted by what's happened to you. That doesn't happen anymore. Because, again, when you open that tape up and you look inside and you read the words, and he says, death of Mother Earth, never a rebirth, evolution's end, never will it mend, never. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's like right there. I'm just saying it. I got like a little tingle up my spine like I did the first time I heard Metallica.
Yeah.
So, it's sad that that experience is not there in the same way anymore. You can't do that the same way. Because you've probably got a whole bunch of information on that before you even acquired the CD. Like, do you think anybody goes and buys the new Metallica without knowing all the bullshit that goes along with it?
Yeah.
So it ruins it. So as much as Metallica's new album's really good, considering all the information we know, it's not that good. So in the end, I really wish that, and speaking of Metallica, it was Lars Ulrich who tried to get Napster banned. He tried to tell everybody, this is what's going to happen. It's all going to be destroyed, and you fucking idiots are going to reap nothing. You're going to have nothing left. And he was right, because that's where we all are now. I don't know. I have friends that are very successful musicians and producers and whatevers. But in this day and age, nobody's making much money off their music anymore. You used to be able to get a hit single and maybe live on that for years. Now, good luck. Not going to happen.
Yeah,
because it's watered down.
Yeah. It's like definitely super saturated. And I feel like it's we've kind of have gone more towards like a single culture, you know what I mean? Like the art of the album is kind of like a dying art almost, which is sad to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why the Immortalist is the way it is. That's why we wanted to make sure there was 12 songs in there, 70 minutes of music.
Yeah.
It's slammed in there, and there's a 24-page full-color booklet in there as well. So if you were stuck on a deserted island with the Immortalist CD and a CD player, you'd be able to dig right into that.
So you guys are keeping the art of the album alive.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. So are there any kind of final things you just want to throw out there before we close this up?
Well, I urge anybody that likes metal to check out divinity.ca. We've got all kinds of stuff up there, videos and explanation of the songs and all the stuff that we're doing and all the stuff that we have done. Metal's alive and well all over the place. There's no problem there. No problem with enough people liking it.
Yeah.
It's not the issue at all. But, I do urge people to purchase albums that you like from your artist if you can directly. Like you can go to our website and buy our album there. So no more us getting 8% of the sales on our album. That's over. We're through that. Now we get 100% if you buy it from us. Right? If you go to iTunes or you go to Amazon or something, then obviously they take a cut. But it'd be nice if music got back to that where the artist could get the proceeds from that, as opposed to it filtering all through the different veins that have to get it, like as if iTunes needs more money, more of my money. So if I put 4,000 hours into just the recording of this, well, I don't know how much it would be. That's probably an overstatement. I put thousands of hours into this record, personally, myself. That doesn't even include the other guys and how much they've put in. So, if a bunch of people actually purchased this album, then maybe it would be, shouldn't say worth it, because it's always going to be worth it when I get a product at the end that's something to be proud of. But it really would be nice to be able to make a living doing this stuff. And some people, unfortunately, think that being a musician is like a luxury. So if you get to do music for a living, then, well, you've got it made. Well, not really. Think of all the stuff you got to put in to do music, to make albums, to tour. So there's a lot. But I would say metal's alive and well, and we're just stoked to be able to keep doing it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me.
You betcha, Cody.
Awesome. And I will probably see you on Saturday.
Sounds great.
Cool.
All right, man.